So let's begin. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the Digital Anti-Corruption Conference. I hope you can hear me well and see the video. If you notice any technical issues on other side, please let us know. While people are still joining, I would start with a brief introduction. My name is Maxym Martsynovskyi, and I'm a fundraising specialist in the Anti-Corruption headquarters in Kyiv, Ukraine. This part of the conference is called Digital for Anti-Corruption, and you are currently in the second room, Open Data. We have planned this showcasing to talk about the existing technology to tackle corruption in Central, East Europe, and Baltic states. We have got great speakers, and I am really grateful that you have joined us. And a few words on how this room is organized. We will work from 1 p.m. to 2:30, and this time will be shared between 3 sessions, 1 individual presentation and 2 joint presentations. And we will start with a roadmap to fight corruption with open data. At 1:15, I will invite the BRDO representative. Then at 1:30, I'll pass the virtual microphone to OpenUp Ukraine. And finally, at 2 p.m. to Prozoro Sales and Cost Ukraine. Please use about 10 minutes to speak, and then 5 minutes for questions and answers in co-presentation. You can raise your hand while listening to the presentation, and then after the end of the presentation, the presenter will give you a floor so you can ask your questions. If we finish a session earlier, we will have a small break before the next session. We need to start on time for those people who could be joining from other rooms. So we asked the presenters to answer several questions, then showcasing their innovative solutions to deal with corruption. First is, which problem does your solution solve? Second is, which added value did this solution have for the government or society? The third is, which challenges does it face? And the fourth is, how could it be scaled up? As a facilitator, I'll be the timekeeper, and also I can help to collect questions. But please be free to organize your presentation the way you like. Finally, the entire session has English-Ukrainian translation, so please remember to switch to the same language channel as the language you use to ask questions or to comment. In the lower right corner of the screen, the globe icon. Please keep in mind звук слова for the translation to work properly. The session will also be recorded in case you miss anything. And now let's jump directly to the presentation of Natalia Karfi from Open Data Chat. Dear Natalia, are you here? It seems that Natalia is not here. If it is so, we can firstly move to the presentation of yes, I think we can move to the presentation of Alexey Dorogan and listen it firstly. So Alexey, the floor is yours, and you are welcome.
Thank you. So I'll talk about a number of initiatives that we at BRDO helped develop in some form. BRDO is an independent think tank focused on policy analysis and implementation. Is it so? I speak in the right channel, right, Maxym? Everything is all right.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So yeah, this is automatically translated DIA. I won't go too far into DIA, but I guess I should a little. So DIA is an umbrella web portal and also a mobile application that you can get your public services through. It's a one-stop shop, and in order for DIA to function well, it needs sister projects that would serve as a backend systems for DIA. One of those is the construction system, which we have drafted regulation on. So the construction sector in Ukraine is notorious for corruption, and this portal and relevant services on the DIA web portal help clean up that corruption and make services transparent. So on DIA, you can actually get documentation to start construction and to finish construction, which is legally called commissioning the construction. So you can see that there is this category of services on the DIA, and this is all connected with the e-construction portal. So there is quite a few of the services that are now available on the DIA portal, which work through the e-construction portal. So you can click on any of the services and get the relevant public service online. And this is what makes this possible, the portal and the regulation underpinning this. All of the applications for public services in construction are public. You can see them on a map, you can see them in a database, you can download them, you can build your startup or anti-corruption service on top of this. And this had a dramatic impact on corruption risks in constructions. I personally have heard, even on small things, that relevant independent professionals that work in constructions are afraid to do illegal things because they will be seen on a web portal, and they could have trouble because of those breaches in regulations. So that's one. In terms of answering Maxym's questions, the problem was non-transparent, burdensome, and corruption-prone procedures in construction. This is solved by digitization, and scaling this up. The next step in Ukraine would be making those services fully automatic, so that no public servant in state architectural inspectorate or in other public authorities can make a decision so that 99% of services are provided automatically. And such a draft law is already in the parliament. We worked very hard on this, and we hope it can be adopted in January, realizing the vision for fully automatic public services in construction. This would work like this. If you have land in the system, in the registers, and you own it, or you lease it and it's registered, if you have all of the necessary approvals, and this is checked automatically, and you get your permit. And the same way with commissioning construction. So that's it for construction. Let's move on to natural resources and ecology. On ecosystem, we have also done a lot of analytical work and also legal drafting in order to make all of those different areas fully digital in terms of public services. You need a lot of analysis and a lot of regulations. So we're talking about dozens of drafts that we have developed that have already been adopted or are in interministerial consultations. So any of those puzzles consists services, and the vision is all data related to natural resources and ecology will be here, and there can be value unlocked through comparing and unifying data and procedures that covers use of natural resources and emissions, basically, because those are very tightly connected. You obtain natural resources, you do something with them, and then you emit. So for instance, let's look at the waste. So you can see registers here. Black ones are those that have already been published. And you can see also administrative services here that are available, that will soon be available on the DIA umbrella web portal. So now here problem is, let's answer Max's questions. So the problem was that, of course, there's a lot of corruption in those services, and also there is a lot of inefficiencies in the policy of natural resources use and waste and ecology issues. So the solution is have basically a middleware or backend solution that would unify those and become the necessary system to make public services on those issues available on DIA, and make some of them fully automatic, those that we cannot do fully automatic, fully transparent, and working seamlessly so that there can be civic control on them. Now, next steps for Ukraine, for ecosystem, is of course adopting those regulations and bringing this number of 24 services under development into the number of active services. That's it for ecosystem, which was the name of this project. Now, let's move on to Start Business Challenge. So Start Business Challenge is a project of BRDO that we developed ourselves. Let's try to translate this. If it doesn't, I'll go through in Ukrainian. So this is a service that helps to open businesses. So we believe that opening a business should be very easy. And you shouldn't have to pay bribes to do this, right? So there's 183 manuals on opening businesses. So you pick a business that you want to open, a bar, for instance. You pick a municipality where you want to open this so that you have local information. You can see a YouTube video with a radio program where we talk about a real entrepreneur on how to open this. And I'm normally in those videos as well. So you go through a test and then you get a manual on how to open your business, custom tailored to you. The vision is to have this in DIA, to open businesses through one-stop shop by a couple of clicks in DIA. And this is actually the next step. So the next step is having manuals and comprehensive services opening businesses and other things in DIA. And there's been regulation passed, and it's now under development, and we'll look forward to implementing this. In the past, you had corruption when you were trying to open businesses, when you would come to civil servants, and you would always have something wrong, and they would tell you, you can't do that, let us fix this, but pay us a bribe. With this service and with DIA, opening business would be very easy in Ukraine. Now, I hope you're still with me. Next thing is inspections. There is a lot of corruption in inspections, and we have worked with the government to digitize those. And for the first time in Ukraine's history, you have inspection plans fully digital and also inspection results fully digital. So you can actually see through Open Data Bot, through uControl, through all of the startups that Ukrainians use that are built on open data, you can see whether the business that you work with or want to have business with has been inspected, and whether it passed that inspection. In terms of anti-corruption, there's been problems with inspectors coming to businesses, extracting bribes, not entering inspections anywhere because they store them in the cupboard, and a lot of other things that you could do once an inspector is alone in the office with an entrepreneur. So this portal aims to plan inspections automatically based on risk analysis, and also helps to improve efficiencies in the inspection system so that inspectors and inspector authorities are evaluated not based on the amount of fines that they get from businesses, but based on how many fires, food poisonings, and other negative events happened on their territory and why. So that's it for the inspection portal. Next steps is this risk analysis system that I briefly talked about. We want to move on to evaluating one by one inspection authorities. Now that we have all the necessary, most of the necessary data regarding inspections in the portal, the next step is collecting data on negative events and comparing them and building a risk model. Last project that I want to talk with you about today is Regulation GoUA, where we consult on those policy initiatives that have such a tremendous anti-corruption effect, and civic society and other stakeholders are welcome to take part in consultations. And this is organized on regulation. GoUA, feel free to have your say. Now these are the top initiatives on digital anti-corruption that BRDO has worked on and that I wanted to present to you now. I hope I didn't take too much time. I remember there was some time reserved for questions, Maxym, right?
If you have any questions, you can raise your hand, or also if you have no possibility to speak, you can write to our chat. Also, I want to ask once more, Miss Natalia, are you here? It seems that Natalia Karfi could not join, so we can spend more time with Mr. Alexei. And so if you have any questions, you're free to ask them. Or to write them to the chat. Yes, Mr. Andrei.
Yes, thank you very much for the presentation. It was really interesting. And I just wanted to ask a question as a user of DIA as well as the specialist that is related somehow. I'm just curious, from your point of view and from your experience, what is the most popular for among the population, among the user, the service of DIA? Yeah, so the most usable, the most popular, maybe, yeah, something like that.
Yeah, thank you. So thank you for the question. So I don't work for Ministry of Digital Transformation, so I can just tell you my guess, right? I think there might be some people from InDigital here, but I can't see them in the call, so I can't really refer this to somebody. But the COVID certificates are very popular right now, as you well know, and I think this is the most popular service on the platform that is used everywhere in Ukraine. Other things, well, FOPs are pretty popular. For instance, this is in English called individual entrepreneurs, although I see that I think everyone in the call speaks Ukrainian, so I don't really understand why we speak English, but whatever. So FOPs are very popular. And the next thing that's going to be super popular is registration of residence address, rejestracja miejsca проживания. This is, I think, going to be huge as well. So these are top 3 from my side.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Any more questions? No more questions?
No question.
Once more? Can you repeat, please? Okay, then I'll ask a question. Mr. Alexei, for me, it is interesting. How is it for you to work with business? Can you tell us about different aspects of your work with the private sector?
Sure. So there is a couple of different assumptions that you can make when you work on policy issues. First assumption is that you are the expert, so you know what you're doing, and you don't need anyone else. This is a popular assumption, but one that we do not believe is true. And the second assumption is that even though you may have some knowledge and experience in the subject matter, you need to consult with stakeholders, because it's not about realizing your expert vision, it's about resolving problems of stakeholders. And there is no other source of knowledge about problems of stakeholders as good as stakeholders telling you what their problems are. So we consult with businesses and with the CSOs a lot. And over the years, this has helped us tremendously to achieve the results that we have. Even though in the beginning, most of private sector stakeholders believed that there's no point in answering our requests for consultations, because we just have a grant or a project and we just want to tick a box and write in a report that we consulted with someone. But over the years, as more and more results, initiatives became adopted that we have developed, private sector changed their view of this, and we now have very good consultations with business associations and other civil society organizations. Now, in terms of results, we have around 200 initiatives that have been adopted by the parliament and by the government, and this has led to more than 1 billion euros in economic effect savings for businesses and savings for various budgets, state budgets and municipal budgets. So primary way we work on policy issues with businesses, we consult with them.
And what is the most difficult to find common language to develop new products?
Well, we are now talking about products in a number of different meanings. So, right, we talked about digital solutions, and this is a conference about digital anti-corruption, right? So if you're talking about digital products, digital solutions, and you want those solutions to have businesses as your target audience, to resolve problems of businesses, then of course you need to go to them. I've never seen a donor-funded or a civic initiative aiming to resolve business problems that would get this right from the first time. Even if you have an idea, you need to do, I don't know, a design sprint, a couple of interviews, a focus group, a consultation event, to hone your product, to make sure it is really fit for the purpose. And let's face it, most donor-funded digital products like this fail because of this very issue and because of no sustainability plan that is feasible. Now, second type of product that we talked today is about policy initiatives, policy solutions, and on this, I think we have talked about. The key issue is distrust. People don't believe you really want to solve a problem. People, even if they do, people normally don't believe that you have the capacity to do this. So the largest challenge is to build the capacity, build the reputation, and then any organization will be able to consult successfully with private sector and with business associations. I would say those are two main products that we have expertise about. So I wouldn't be talking about anything else probably, because I just don't have expertise in those issues.
Thank you. Any more questions from any of participants?
I have a question. Could you please tell more about ecosystem? do people use it every day, or many services are popular there? What do you know about that?
I think it's too early to say at this point. It's still in its early stages. I think when there's going to be next DIA summit with next batch of launches of digital services, we're going to see a few of services made available on DIA. And then we're going to be able to have some numbers on how popular their services are. So stay tuned for, I think, in 2 months, we're going to have news on this.
Thank you.
If we have no more questions, then we can make a small break for 4 minutes, and we will return at 13:30. So yes, see you.
Thank you. See you.
So hi everyone, and welcome back. Previously, we had a presentation from Oleksiy Dorogan from BRDO, Ukraine, and we are very grateful for him and his interesting presentation. And now we continue the second room, open data session within Digital Anti-Corruption Conference. And the next speaker is Kyrylo Zakharov from OpenUp Data Community Ukraine. And Kyrylo, welcome. The floor is yours.
Доброго дня. Сьогодні я хочу презентувати вам проект, який з'явився.
Good afternoon. I will present a different new project that we did quite recently called Request. I will now move into the presentation and I will tell you more as to what we have here. I do hope you can see my presentation. Yes? Okay, perfect. So if we talk about open data, Ukraine is now making quite serious steps forward in terms of open data infrastructure. Today, we can also talk about more than 80 plus various applications based on open data. Some of them are to fight corruption. There is the hidden interest that was presented already. They use open data, you control open data bot, a code in your hand. So it all has a good potential for fighting corruption and used by National Agency on Fighting Corruption, National Security Council, and various NGOs that are fighting corruption. Today, we have published more than 67,000 data sets on the state portal, and the Ministry of Digital Transformation says that the total number of users of this service is more than 7 million people. Quite a lot is done by the state to open data. The Decree 835 that regulates the number of data that are mandatory for publishing initially included 331 data set, then it grew to 616, then 887. Now the new regulation is coming about more than 1,000 of these sets. And we're getting lists of data that must be published. This is done by activists, analysts who work with data and who are trying to receive certain data from the state. And before this data sets go into regulations, we try to get them through requests. To get open data through requests may turn to be a difficulty through a number of reasons. Sometimes you just get no answer at all. Certain requests are ignored by data providers. The answer may be off topic, incomplete, or the format is inappropriate. It can't be worked with. Number two, these are mistakes. When we appeal through not getting data, they sometimes are left unattended, or there is the need to send your documents again. Then the third thing, you need to understand that you have to wait for about 5 days if you want to send a request to human rights specialists. It's 30 days, other institutions up to 60 days. So following all of these deadlines is complicated, and if you're following several requests, it can become a problem. Now we are presenting the solution or an application called a requester. It can help you get information from local authorities and state authorities. It includes convenient templates. We have the best templates of documents to make sure that the documents that our requesters send, like complaints or requests or claims, are perfect. The next thing is a storing space, which is safe. Third, these are business processes. The application uses data that the user introduced before and helped to process documents that will require less effort. It can be integrated with a calendar when you need to follow the deadlines, and the program helps you to see when you are supposed to get your answer and have a reminder on your calendar. And the final thing is open code, which can be downloaded, custom-tailored, improved. You can suggest your own improvements to the code. So you have to enter data. You can see, have a preliminary view, and then add Microsoft Word document to it. You have a dashboard where you can see all of the documents that you have already submitted or prepared and see the dates when you are expecting a reply. I can show you how the program works. You can file a request, or you can file a claim or a complaint. So, for example, we choose a request. You can identify yourself, write email, your phone number, and on the right, you can see the template, which some of the elements which appear when you introduce data into the system, for example, the email that we need to introduce here. We can also define the data provider, like the Ministry of Justice, the law of Ukraine that we're referring to, on access to public data, for example. And the data set that we are interested in. For example, we want the list of secondary regulation. After that, we can add more lists if we need. We push save the request, and the program will automatically give us the information that we will have to wait for 5 business days. If we are happy about the date, we will correct it, approve it, or you can amend it if you know that you will send your request not today, but later. You can add it to the calendar, which will set the reminder on, or you can then edit it if necessary. After that, you push save and send, and you receive a Microsoft Word document that is ready for submission. After that, you can go to My Requests, where you will see that you have filed a new request that is related to a certain database. You can write comments if necessary. For example, there are some peculiarities about it. If it is outstanding, you can use the function of filing a claim based on that. The system, as you can see here, uses some of the automatically introduced information, and you can already add what you need. In this case, it is about not getting the response in the due time. So problems and challenges in the process of development. First of all, no good practices. Right now, we already have some possibilities to get public data, but data requests are not so popular as of yet, and we tried to provide users with additional opportunities through our program. Then it's a small community. Of course, there's a lot of users of open data, but the community of developers is not too large. So the demand for the services that work with open data is not very large as well, but we do hope that our application will be instrumental. Then finally, we talk about the absence of resources from data providers. Sometimes they don't give answers, not because the data might have some information that will imply corruption. They may sometimes just have no resources to publish and prepare data, or have no knowledge. This is something that we need to work with. What can be improved? We have 2 directions. Centralization, first of all. It's just one-way application. So far, it works through your browser and the information doesn't go anywhere. This is your individual information. and it will only stay on your computer in your browser, but we can have a database that will have information in all of the requests, and by thus provide a general understanding of how we work with data in Ukraine. It can be added to the state portal of open data in case such data sets have been already published, and informational systems of our court administration, because we already have appropriate trials. It will also help us analyze all of the business process, how the requests go, how claims go, how they go to the human rights representative, how they go to courts. The centralization of the application and better connection with the state. This is how we are going to improve our application. Basically, this is all I wanted to tell you. In case there are questions, I will be more than happy to answer. You can scan the QR code to copy the link, or just find it from our OpenUp community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kirill, for your presentation. I want to remind that if you have any questions, then you can ask it both in English or Ukrainian, or you can also write it to the chat if you have no possibility to speak. So thank you. And does anyone have a question? No questions?
Якщо немає питань, то я можу, власне,
In
додати.
case there seems to be no questions, I can add. It's an open code application. There is a specific link to GitHub from which you can get the whole of the code for the application. You can build it yourself. The architecture of it is quite simple. So you have skills to do that, or you wish to do something or improve the application, then you can download the code and work on it. In case you don't understand much of computer programming, you can still provide us with your feedback, and we will improve the service for you.
Thank you. If there are no questions, then I want to ask you, is there any country that inspires you to fight for everything open, for open data? Something like an example for you.
Ну, насправді, по-перше, я сам є розробником одного.
I am the developer on one of the services that uses open data, which was called Court in Your Hand. We're using about 13 state registers that were published as open data. We understand why data is important and how communities can benefit from it. Apart from that, we are OpenUp community, where we have a lot of developers. Many times we initiated large requests, joint requests. We have leaders in our community, Nadia Babinska, Andrei Krimchuk, Yaroslav Aragruts, which really fight for their right to open data in court, in the human rights representative. When I saw that problem, when I needed to get data, not as the answer to my request, I saw that there was the need to make this procedure automatic. We need to understand who we need to turn to. I really made research of what documents could be useful, and we try to automatize this process and improve the life of everyone who will choose this path, which is quite complicated, by the way. So if I talk about who inspires me, then these are the people who are parts of our community, things that they do, because this is really great.
Thank you.
Дякую.
Any more questions?
Thank you.
If there are no questions, then I'll ask another one. And it is well-known fact that Ukraine is one of Europe's leaders in open data flow, in transparency of the data. And what partners do you have in Europe or all around the world that can take some of our experience and share its experience in their countries? Do you have such a cooperation with partners from other countries?
It would be difficult for me to speak about the whole of the country. There are certain things that I follow up, and I can say that lots of work was done by the Eastern Europe Fund. They were doing the projects on opening data, did a lot of contests for applications based on open data. They did a lot of analytical work. USAID projects that were also important here too. Whatever was related to analytical work based on open data or based on advice on how we open data. There's a lot in the sphere of education. We cooperate with international organizations that evaluate data, Open Data Barometer. We communicate with Open Knowledge Foundation. So people who do that everywhere in the world, they're also interested in promoting this ideology of opening the data and on promoting best practices. Just smaller organizations, but they also join in to grant projects, to financing local initiatives. And a large number of NGOs in Ukraine do a lot on opening data, and they get assistance from partners from the West in their activity. But I think that people who work in the Ministry of Digital Transformation will know more about that because they have a better list on that.
Thank you. Yeah, you talk a lot about the cooperation with non-government organizations, but what about your cooperation with business? How do you actually cooperate with business here in Ukraine?
Ну, знову ж таки, важко сказати, як саме це впливає на бізнес.
That will be difficult again to say how that influences business. Initial funding for some of the projects, including business projects from open data, was provided by donor organizations or representatives of donor organizations. If we talk about the cooperation, then I mostly see that this is the measurement of the situation, something that is done by international organizations, how they sample the situation in Ukraine, and also best practices. We have certain methods for audit, information audit, so that people can check what kind of data they have, how they're supposed to work with it, or international standards that can be implemented or were implemented. For example, if we talk about Prozoro, which is quite well known everywhere, it was built on the data standard OCDS, and this is the work that was done with international organizations. I hope that there will be international standards used for electoral data, and if our Central Electoral Committee will get involved and we do use the international standard, that will be good. So using publishing open data according to international standards is our way to go if we want to use international instruments. Because if published data according to certain international standards, they can then work with applications that were developed anywhere in the world, analytical or integrational applications or cooperation with other countries. To my knowledge, the same goes about the work with customs service of the country, where we are now in the process of standardizing data to compare it then with data from other countries. This is also done to fight corruption within customs.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the participants? You are free to ask anything what is interesting for you. As I see, there are no questions, and if it is so, then we are going to have a 5 minutes break before the next session begins. Thank you for your attention, and once more, thank you for Kirilo from OpenUp Data Community Ukraine for his interesting presentation. Thank you, and see you soon.
Дякую.
Thank you.
Hi, folks. For everyone who is new here, you are in the second room. It is a room about open data session within Digital Anti-Corruption Conference. And thanks for stopping by and for staying with us. As I understand, Natalia Karpiev from Open Data Charter has actually joined us. And if two other speakers that we are going to have in this session, Alexander Akulenko and Katerina Basova, are not against this, then I would like to give Natalia about 10 minutes for her presentation, because she had to do it at first session, but there was no possibility. So what do you think about it? Dear Katerina and Alexander.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you. Then Natalia, are you ready for your presentation?
Yes, thank you very much for the time.
Then the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and thanks for the invite to showcase the tools that we've created for open data and anti-corruption. If you give me just 1 second, I'll share the screen. Okay, you should be seeing my screen. Let me do this. Okay, you're seeing my full screen, isn't it?
Yes, everything's okay. We can see.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm Natalia Karpiev. I'm the director of the Open Data Charter. I just wanted to let you know a little bit more about the Open Data Charter before I get started. So we were launched in 2015, and the Open Data Charter is a collaboration between governments and experts working on open data based on a set of principles. So after a year and a half of global consultations in between 2014 and 2015, the 6 principles of the Open Data Charter were created. These are the 6 principles that you see here, to which every open data policy can actually apply anywhere in the world at any level of government. And I won't go deep into the principles so that I can have time to introduce the tools that I'm here to introduce. So the Open Data Charter has been collaborating with OGP for a long time. And so 2.5 years ago, we started a project to help out with the creation of commitments of open data to combat corruption. So the first thing that we did was try to analyze how many commitments and which categories of commitments that used open data to fight corruption were created among all the national action plans of OGP members. So OGP, for those that don't know, it's the Open Government Partnership, which is the global organization that gathers all the governments that are working towards policies of open government. So what we found out 2.5 years ago was that there were 218 commitments that were related to open data to fight corruption, out of which 21 had been started by the independent report mechanism, which is the mechanism that OGP has to evaluate commitments. Out of those 21, these are the four topics that those commitments were focused on. So budgets, global aid, extractive, and public procurement seem to be the most common themes within the scope of open data for anti-corruption. Then another interesting thing was analyzing how those commitments were actually implemented, or how well were they implemented, or if they were implemented at all. So and unluckily, what we found out is that only 50% of them were substantially completed. So it's a low rate of completion. And out of the 50% that was not completed, 61% was medium or low specificity. So the problem was not clear, the activities were not clear, and so they had moderate effect. Most of the activities of those commitments had to do with transparency, then with participation and public accountability. And then as we found out in that research, most of those commitments, 54%, were generating no change in public participation, and 61 out of those 61% were not creating any change in public accountability. So the commitments were there, but as far as specificity, how they were written and how they were implemented, it was very sketchy. So we set up to work, and when I say we, it's a consortium of organizations, which is the African Open Data Network, the Latin American Open Data Initiative, Global Integrity, the Open Data for Development Network, and Open Data Charter. All of those organizations gathered together to try to create new tools to help promote better open data for anti-corruption commitments within the OGP umbrella. So let me share a little bit about the two tools that we created. So one is the Anti-Corruption Commitment Creator. So this is a booklet that you are able to download and use. It's in English, in Spanish, and in French, so that we can reach out to most of the OGP community. And it's basically a booklet that will take you through 4 steps to draft the commitment. So with a series of questions and of resources, you will be able to navigate through these 4 steps, a better way of creating these commitments. And let me show you the 4 questions. So these are the 4 areas that the booklet actually works on. So first, trying to understand what is the policy goal that this commitment is addressing. So what's the overall question? What's the overall anti-corruption question that you're going to try to understand? Because what we saw was that the problem definition was not clear in most of the OGP commitments. So trying to understand the policy goal and the anti-corruption problem, and to be able to pin it down, it's super important, because that then will drill down into better activities and more clear activities and more implementable activities, because you have a clearer horizon. Then step 2 is, as I was saying, what's the anti-corruption problem? What's the corruption problem that your commitment will address? So within the anti-corruption agenda, which we know it's huge, which is the main goal of your commitment. Then step 3 is the connection between open data and anti-corruption. So how is open data going to help out with this corruption problem, and in particular? So why open data is the means to this end, and always trying to understand that open data, it's a mean towards an end and not an end in itself. So opening up data doesn't have to be the overall goal. It should be a means to tackle another problem, in this case, a corruption problem. And this is where you drill down the activities. The 4th step would be, how will this commitment contribute to address the corruption problem? So how will this commitment actually and actively create change? So throughout these four questions, and if you see, I will leave all the links in the chat room. You will see you have a lot of questions to answer, so that we are helping you drill down all the answers to these questions. And if you need further clarification, there's a whole bunch of resources that have been collected also in this tool that you can use as a collective, as like we are aspiring that the multi-stakeholder forums actually use this tool together. So to be able to draft and drill down the activities. So this is tool number 1, and I will, as I said, we'll leave everything in the chat room. This is the second tool, which is called the Roadmap to Fight Corruption with Open Data. This is a platform. This is online. That's why you see here 2 ways of entering the platform. One is as a guest, and another one you have to enroll using your email. So this is a platform that will actually take you through.
I apologize for interrupting. You have a few minutes to sum up.
Yeah, and this is my last slide.
Okay.
So this is actually a platform. So you will have to navigate through a set of questions and resources to understand if open data is the way to go for your commitment. So this is a kind of a pre-step to creating an actual commitment. So through navigating the platform, you will be able to tackle down the questions like, do you have an open data policy? Is there an open data policy in place? Is there an anti-corruption agency in that country, or is it a consortium of governmental organizations that works toward that? Are they all in the round table? So it's trying to understand and set up the perfect group to create this anti-corruption commitment. As I said, this is an online platform, so you can use it as a guest or be able to save your progress and come back whenever you want to keep navigating this tool. I will share the link to this one also in the chat room. And this is all I had. All the resources are in the webpage that is there. Thanks for letting me share these tools with you.
Thank you very much. I'm glad that we still were able to listen to Natalia from Open Data Charter. And now the speaker is Alexander Akulenko, who represents state-owned enterprise Prozoro Sales. Alexander, you are welcome.
Hi, everyone. I would share my screen now. So, could you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Alexander Akulenko, and I'm Chief Product Officer at Prozoro.sale. Our mission is to build markets and trust. We help governments to tap into the hidden potential of their assets and generate more revenue for the budgets of all levels. The online auction system allows government agencies to sell or lease items that were previously impossible or very inefficient to trade. And also, it's a powerful tool to fight against corruption. We're selling in billions, but it's not about money. It's also about general impact, about transformation of public space and surrounding area. I'd like to show you one of the latest examples of our work with partners. For me, it's an incredible example of transformation. And for me, it's special also because several years ago, it was just a theory. We believed in it. We have evidence that this should work, but it took time to prove this. And now everybody could see the results. Unfortunately, often public mean nobodies who think that a state or city could be a better owner than a private person or company. In most cases, the private owner of any assets will care about the asset to make it profitable. So now the question is how to organize the process of selling such assets and to gain trust of citizens and business. Basically, it was the question that appeared in front of our team in 2016. Before Prozoro sale, public assets could be sold or leased only by the right people, or nothing was sold or leased and assets collapsed over time. Or there were separate offline and online auctions, but it was hard to get there and it was impossible to find all the assets in one place. Therefore, there was a demand for the proper tool that could solve the problem to lease or sell anything with a minimum human factor and without corruption, and of course online. Here you can see one of the examples of old school registries, newspapers, and they're pretty fresh, very user-friendly. In 2015-2016, there was a cleanup of a banking sphere in Ukraine. Those banks, which became bankrupt, had thousands of assets as collateral, and the cost of such assets decreases over time. So you should sell them as quickly as possible, but for the highest possible price. And there were more than 90 banks. Nobody had solved such problem before, neither in Ukraine nor in the world. We held the first auction in November 2016. The experiment was successful, and we started to scale the approach to different markets. The system is hybrid, both centralized main part and decentralized private marketplaces. It doesn't matter which marketplace publishes an auction. All other marketplaces have equal access to it, but information about buyers is secret till the end of the auction. It happened so that we have solved the main problems, and sellers and buyers started to believe us, and we could measure their belief as the number of successful auctions. We started with a pilot project. However, from the very beginning, we noticed the potential for scaling up. This idea, as well as the technical solution, can be replicable internationally and provide benefits to many governments around the globe. We are flexible and agile and use different approaches for different markets. But there are three key principles on which the system is based: a hybrid, open source electronic system. Everybody can see everything. All possible data is public. And the golden triangle of partnership: business, civil society, and government. Why trust is so important? Who has heard about the prisoner's dilemma? If there is no trust, everyone loses. It presents a situation where two parties, separated and unable to communicate, must each choose between cooperating with the other or not. The highest reward for each party occurs when both parties choose to cooperate. And why people started to believe us? A small gang of freaks that has no prior experience in this sphere. We've started from full transparency. It was breaking change for the stakeholders, regular open meetings for officials, banks and their clients, experts from government and civil society. We recorded and streamed those meetings as well. All project documents were public and were available for journalists. We've documented each step and published weekly updates about our auctions, and of course, our partners from business, marketplaces who provided service to clients and monitored the operation of the system. It's impossible to corrupt dozens of independent businesses simultaneously. And last but not least, the system was open source and all data was public. Now we have the simple tool and new ecosystem with more than 40 marketplaces and a number of independent products built on data generated by the system. So it's not only about money, it's something bigger. And as at the very beginning, we still believe about the golden triangle. Without cooperation and balance between these parties, everything would fail. Every public organization should remember about it. And here are some results of our work for the past 5 years, and $1 billion only for the last year. And remember, it's not about money. General impact is even more important and valuable for us. How we're doing all this? At the very beginning, there were 5 team members. I became 6. Now our core team consists of 50 people. So, divided equally, each of us has helped budgets of all levels get more than 1 million hryvnias per team member. Our team was recognized with the Doing More with Less 2019 for the maximization of impact while minimizing the amount of resources we have used. And we brought this mindset with us after transformation from small project team to the state-owned enterprise. It would be impossible without our partners, donors, outsource and outstaff teams that helped us to build and develop our products. And even when there is a lot of regulation and legislation, we start with a pilot project and MVPs, no matter what we're doing, transforming the existing market or building market from scratch. And reform adoption curve looks like any innovation adoption curve. For any pilot, we're looking for innovators who are ready to support us in transforming the market. And even after the system is obligatory due to the law, there will always be somebody who is trying to stop the reform and to work as it was before, or not to work. The difference is that now you could see this. Journalists and civil society play the main role here. And of course, open data and projects that are working with this data. There are several types of pilots. When we're operating only with the part of assets or with the part of the process, or organizational pilot when we're working with some region, city, or company. And now I'll show you a brief example of one market, real estate lease. There are millions of square meters of state and municipal property. Nobody knows real numbers. It is used ineffectively. We decided to scale a similar approach from selling assets to lease. We were looking for volunteers. It's easy to join the system now when you see all the results. And in 2017, the Ukrainian Post was brave enough to jump into the pilot. And now it's scaled for the all municipal and governmental property of Ukraine. And you could see the example of lease registry. Remember the newspaper at the beginning. Now It's available online even before an auction. It's possible to find what the state and cities own, and we scale similar approach to different markets. Property lease, land market, small privatization, rail care lease, insolvency rights, and so on. We're only one part of the equation. Electronic trade system must be ready together with all marketplaces, but without work of dozens of partners and professionals from civil society, government, local official, business, without help of international donors and organizations, it would be hard or sometimes even important to build and transform the market. Here you could see some iconic auctions. In different cities and regions, from huge factories for billions to some scrap in villages, from gas and oil licenses to fairs with Christmas trees. And now, different abandoned assets look like this. And it's the very beginning. Now we're working on new markets and going to go global. The solution is replicable internationally, so we could provide benefits to many governments across the globe, and even beyond the borders. I believe that one day we could use the same principles and develop them to sell asteroid mining rights, areas on Mars, and intergalactic transportation rights. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alexander, for your presentation. And finally, I am glad to welcome Katerina Basova and the Transparent Infrastructure Project of Cost Ukraine. Katerina, you are welcome to start.
Дуже дякую, дуже дякую. Я прошу...
Thank you very much. I will ask Tatiana to share the slides. We will do this presentation together. We will speak Ukrainian. I would like to welcome all of the participants, dear colleagues. This is an interesting, exciting conference. I'm grateful for this possibility to make a presentation, because this is the opportunity to show our product and see what other people have to show. Accountability and transparency in road building is now that is done with public funds is a priority for Ukraine, and reform in large construction, these are the programs that are active in our country, so it's very important, really. Tatiana and I will tell you today about one of the online instruments that is called Cost Ukraine. It's a portal, transparent infrastructure. It's a unique online instrument working with infrastructural projects in Ukraine. It was developed by cost specialists after we won an open data challenge supported by the UNICEF Ukraine. And we also work with infrastructure transparency initiative. One of the necessary things to do to fight corruption is to open up data. Today, we said that this is one of the instruments. It's not the end, it's the means, but it does help to fight corruption because people get a possibility to look at themselves, to look at the data and analyze the data and see what's happening. So, transparent infrastructure. It's a web portal including open data, which has all of the projects according to international standard open contracting for infrastructure data standard. It gives the possibility to get information about the implementation of infrastructural projects. This is a visualization on the map of Ukraine that is very easy to use, both for citizens and for representatives of state organizations, private organizations, businesses. What problem are we solving here? This portal has the aim to improve transparency and accountability in infrastructure projects and improve governance and management of such projects. I'd like to say that this portal or this tool is useful for governments, for businesses, and for citizens. Governments get the possibility to show that they're transparent and minimize corruption in regions. Starting with 2018, 2019, we engaged Sumska, Poltavska, Lvivska, and Ternopilska regional administrations, and also Khmelnytsk, Chernovtsi, Odessa, Zakarpattia regional administrations. So altogether that makes 10 regional administrations that are willing to work in a transparent way, even before the 835 decree from the Ministry of Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine, which says that as of next year, it will be mandatory to open up data using this portal as well. Cities joined in starting in 2018, Kyiv, then Lviv, Chernivtsi, then Khmelnytsky, and this year, Mariupol. The cities are not required next year to join in and show their transparency, but these cities proved to be good pilots. We work actively with them, and hopefully in future we will join in, welcome in more citizen partners. An analytical module helps every citizen of Ukraine to do monitoring in the road construction sector, because citizens need to know what's happening, and the decision makers can also be accountable and prove the best cost to quality ratio. For businesses, this portal will do, I need to go back. Thank you. So for businesses, this portal will help analyze and monitor markets, analyze and plan their projects, see what colleagues and competitors do, and make database decisions. So challenges. The challenges that we face are these. This is involvement of cities to the community of open data. We need to promote, to clarify, to talk about the need to go open. Then, of course, each solution is evolving. It is developing so technical support and maintenance, which is done by specialists, which needs resources to keep the portal active and going, and to teach all of the stakeholders how to use it. So for that, we need trainers, we need resources to do this work. And of course, this is development, updating the portal to make sure that we keep our data relevant, high quality, meeting the needs of users. This is very important, and resources are needed for that as well. Scalability. We can say that this solution was based on the data according to OC4IDS standards, and that relates to all of the life cycle of an infrastructural project. The cycle is the same everywhere in the world. So of course, this solution can be used in other countries. We can start from our neighbors, like Georgia or Moldova or Kazakhstan and other countries as well, countries of Eastern Europe. And of course, cost countries, the international network. They all use similar data sets and similar instruments. Additional modules that we can add to this platform. These are separate sections. They can also relate to other infrastructural projects, not only road construction, but also airports, river infrastructure, river locks, river ports, river hubs, sea industry, maritime industry, hubs and ports, social infrastructure, something which we started already. We are engaged in one project here, which is funded by an international organization, international donor. The portal which will help citizens to develop Ukrainian social infrastructure, kindergartens, hospitals, other social facilities, and urban infrastructure as well, parks, recreational areas. This is absolutely important in terms of post-COVID situation. People now pay more attention to their recreation, their health, they spend more time with families. So parks, playgrounds become very important. So these are the additional modules that we can install, make our application more interesting for users. So who can use our application? Like I said, this can be stakeholders in their own way. One thing, though, that is important here is opening up data, complete transparency. Our clients can use this portal to analyze the experience of contractors, to see their. So the clients can analyze the experience of subcontractors, and the subcontractors can monitor the market to see their competitors. And now we'll give the floor to Tatiana. She's my colleague, so you will talk more about technical things. Good afternoon. Portal infrastructure is an automatized system of information about infrastructural projects, road construction, other kinds of construction, different types of roads. All of them are funded from public funds. The data here is accumulated through two sources. The data is collected from external sources. We are almost finished the development of it. The users can see information about the payments for each project. The second source is the decree of the Cabinet of Ministers 835, according to which, starting next year, regional administrations will need to publish their data. That will be accumulated and then used for analytical purposes. We can also create visualizations on how road construction and repair goes. Our users can see that. Now we're transforming this according to the new project cost. and it will be available for our users in 2022. We can get information about the market. You can see how road works are organized, their cost, subcontractors. You'll get information about the top 5 contractors, what kind of works they are doing, regions where they are working, all the top 5 contractors. It also has an interactive register of subcontractors. Next is the cost of 1 kilometer of road. You get the range and average cost, kinds of works, types of roads. Here you see procurement per region, the change in quantity and price, and like I've said, mapping unit is used to provide visualization of infrastructural projects. It's a separate module. It uses transparent infrastructure and data from Ukravtodor, which is the state road agency. We compare the data and provide a visualization. We have information exchange channels with external sources about infrastructural projects. Here you can see how this visualization will appear information on parts of the roads. If some of the parts is not on the map, then the data provider can add it and the data will be saved in our database.
Sorry for interrupting, but we have to close the session, so please take a minute to sum up and end the presentation. Thank you.
Basically, this is the end of what I was going to say, but I'll give the floor back to Katarina for a second. This is our final slide. I would like to finish this presentation by saying thank you for providing us this opportunity. We can't stop. It's our baby. It took us such a long time to develop it, and we're so involved. We have a lot that we can show, all of the opportunities. Just want to say that this portal is just one part of what we can do. We also provide guidelines, because without that, it will be difficult to use just the portal independently. And I need to say that within the project that we're doing through transparency on the roads or in road construction that we did in 2019, 2020, supported by USAID. So we developed a set of guidelines which can be used together with the portal transparent infrastructure. So these materials, if you use the guidelines, will help you achieve the goal of transparent infrastructure in Ukraine, which is the priority both for the government and the civil society. Opening up data in this transport sector is the possibility to promote best practices for all of the citizens. This is information on which roads need to be repaired, who pays for that, how the money is going to be used. All of this is something that citizens need to know. So apart from the guidelines and the portal, we have 2 manuals related to road ailments, so to say, then you're most welcome to come to our portal. You have this final website where you have the address. So please do come, analyze, monitor, provide influence, change the quality of life, change the quality of work and infrastructure everywhere, not just in Ukraine. Thank you for the possibility to talk, and good luck.
Thank you, Katrina. You can send the link to the chat.
Yes.
Now, I regret that our time has run out, and I have to close this session. Should it be an offline event, I would have the pleasure to suggest that we move to a coffee break and ask all questions over coffee. And I hope that one day we will have an opportunity to do it. Thank you for spending this hour and a half with us. And thanks to the speakers for the interesting presentations. It's been a pleasure. And we will be sharing the digital anti-corruption conferences records as soon as possible. And now we are going to have a 20 minutes break, and then please join the next TAC session at 3 p.m. following the main TAC link to plan new digital anti-corruption tools with other panelists. You can also see the link in the chat. I have sent it. So thank you for your attention, thank you for your participation, and see you. Have a nice day.
Thank you.